All right, we're going to start lesson 8.1 here. We're going to start by defining some of these words. Okay, so a relation, this is just an ordered pair. We know what an ordered pair is from graphing. Okay, so you have an x and a y value, right? That's what an ordered pair is. That's also a relation. An ordered pair is a relation. Okay, because normally there's some type of relation that'll get you from the x to the y. So something like this, right? We do something 2x to get to the y, okay? So an ordered pair is a relation. Your range and your domain, we define these in a couple different ways, but basically what they mean is your domain are your x values from your relation, and this is your y values from your relation. All right. Your input are just all of the numbers in your domain. So they mean the same thing. And your output are all of the numbers in your range. All right, that's pretty much it for those definitions, okay? So if you're looking up here, because it says, for example, 1a, identify the domain and range of the relation given above. So they're talking about this one up here where we're looking at alligators. Okay, so the table shows the ages and the lengths of 5 alligators. Okay, so our x is our age and our y is our length. Okay, it just wants us to list the domain and list the range. So what they did is they took this and they wrote them as ordered pairs, right? So you have 2 as your x, and that 2 paired up with the length of 32. And then 4 was my x, so 4 years paired up with 59, and so on and so forth to get your ordered pairs. All right, and then you can use that to list your domain. Your domain, remember, is just your x values, right? The x values from the relation. So here's my relations. My x value is 2, 4, 5, 5 again, and then 7. And then our range. All right. For the range, that's our y values from the relation. So 32, 59, 65, 69, and 96. Okay? Here's your domain, there's your range. All done. That's it. So I want you guys to look at 1b, pause me, and then check back in and see if you got it right. Okay, so for 1b, again, it was the same situation. They got another set of alligators and they took their lengths and their ages, okay? So our domain is our x values. We didn't even have to write these as ordered pairs, okay? We can pull them directly from the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Same with the range. You can pull it directly from the table. 23, 36, 47, 61, and 73. Okay? We're going to skip over number 1 and number 2 checkpoints, and we're going to look here at what should be labeled as example 2. Okay? So this says to represent a relation, the relation. So here's our relation, our set of ordered pairs. So represent this relation as a graph and then as a mapping. Okay, so let's start with a graph. To do that, I'm just going to make my coordinate plane. Okay. My largest number up here is 5, so that's how many little ticks I'm going to put on my graph. All right. And then I'm going to just plot my points. I'm making a graph. I'm graphing points are on a graph. That they're pretty self-explanatory. We just graph them. So I go left for -1 and then up for the +1. Because here's my x and here's my y. Here's my x-axis. Here's my y-axis. And then I go 2, right 2, up or down 0. Okay, I go back to my origin, over 3, up 1. Then I go again, over 3, up 2. And back to my origin for over 4, up 5. Okay, so here is this relation represented as a graph. All right, to represent it as a mapping, it's not really much harder. It's just something you guys don't really know what it is yet. So to make a mapping, you're going to have your domain or your input, remember they're the same thing, and our range or the output. Okay, and we're going to just list them, all right, from smallest to largest. Okay, so these are always done, smallest to largest. And we're not going to repeat. Okay, so if a number shows up twice, we're only going to write it once. All right, so I'm going to look up here. I'm going to find my smallest domain value, so my smallest x value, which would be -1. And then I'm going to find my next smallest, which is 2. And then I find a 3. There are 2 3s, but we don't repeat, so we only write it once. And then 4 is our last one. Okay, same thing with the range. Range, remember, is our y values. So it's our output. So we're going to look for our smallest output or our smallest range. So 0 would be our smallest y value. And then I see a 1. There's 2 1s, but again, we don't repeat, so I'm only going to write it once. And then I see a 2, and then the next smallest one I see is 5. Okay, so this is basically the start of mapping. List the domain and list the range from smallest to largest, but don't repeat anything. All right? And then you're just going to draw arrows connecting the domain with its partnered range, okay? So like up here, -1 went to 1. So when I do this, I'm going to start at -1, and I'm going to draw an arrow to 1 because that's its matching range value. That takes care of that point. And then 2 went to 0. 0 was 2's range. Cross that one out. 3 for this point went to 1, so I'm just going to have 2 arrows going to the number 1, and that's okay. So I'm going to cut that, took care of that point. Then I have another 3, so I'm going to go back to my 3 and draw an arrow to 2 this time. And my last one goes from 4, and it went to 5. Okay? So this is what a mapping looks like. Graph mapping. You know how to do this one? These ones aren't much harder. Just something you haven't seen before, maybe. Okay? So what we're looking at when we do these two things is we're looking for what's called a function. And a function is a type of a relation. Okay, so a function is a relation where you have each domain or input has only one range or output. Okay? So what I mean by that is look up here at our little mapping. 3 is a domain value, right? And it says each domain can only have one range, but this domain went to 2 things. It went to number 1 and it went to number 2. So that would mean that this would not be a function. This relation here is not going to be a function because this domain has 2 ranges and it can only have one. All right. So on example 3, that's what they want us to do. They want us to determine whether the relation is a function or not. All right, so I'm going to make some mappings. So I want to make a mapping for A. So my input or my domain, and here's my output or my range. All right, so I'm going to list 2, 32, 40, nope, lied. 2, 4, 5 repeats, so I'm not going to write that twice, and then 7. And then for my, remember these gotta be from smallest to largest, my Y or my range, I have 32, 59, 65, 69, and 96. Okay, match them up. 2 pairs to 32. 4 goes to 59. 5, that one goes to 65, and then this 5 goes to 69. And then our last one for 7 goes to 96. Okay, so they want us to determine, is this relation a function? Okay, well I see right here my domain, 1 range. This domain has 1 range. This domain, though, it has 2 ranges. Okay, so that means because of right here, this one is not a function. Right, we have 1 domain with 2 ranges. All right, so again, go ahead and pause and try B. All right, so for B, again, we list our domain from smallest to largest. We list our range from smallest to largest. 1 went to 23, 2 to 36, 3, 4, 6. Okay, so when we do this, we look. 1 has 1 range. 2 has 1 range. 3 only goes to 1. 4 only goes to 1. And 5 only goes to 1. So that means this is a function. Okay, each domain has 1 range. This relation is a function. Okay? All right, let's look at the last ones here. I want you to graph number 3. Well, first let's define vertical line test. So the vertical line test, okay, this is a test we can do. It says a vertical line if a vertical line only passes through 1 point, then the relation is a function. Okay? So first thing we need to do, graph our points. Okay, so I'm going to make my graph. Here's my y-axis. Here's my x-axis. All right, and again, my biggest number is 5, so that's how many ticks I'm going to put on here. All right. So my first one is at 0, 3. So I'm going to plot the point 0, 3 by going right or left 0 and up 3. Then I'm going to go right 1, up 2. And then I'm going to go over 2, down 1. Then I'm going to go 4. So right 4, up 4. There's 4. Okay. And then I'm going to go right 5 and up 4. All right, so now we need to go and look and see if this is a relation, if this relation is a function, okay? So I'm going to do my vertical line test. I'm on a graph. Vertical line test seems like an easy option, so that's what I'm going to do. So what you do is you go in and you add vertical lines on every point, okay? if any of these vertical lines, remember vertical is up and down, if any of these vertical lines hit more than 1 point, that means I don't have a function. Okay, because it says if it only passes through 1 point, then the relation is a function. Well, none of these vertical lines hit more than 1 point. So that means 3 is a function. And where it says explain, we just put passed vertical line test. All right. Okay, so I'm going to pause. You try number 4. So for number 4, I made my graph. Here's my x, here's my y-axis, and I plotted all my points. Okay. When I went in and I added my vertical lines in, I had 1 point here, or 1 line here that hit 2 points. This vertical line hit 2 points, which meant this is not a function. That relation in number 4 is only a relation. It is not a function. Okay?